Thank you very much. Let me just once again actually go through this slide. So what is the random variable? Random variable is I'm considering an example of tossing of a coin where the outcomes are head and tail. So what is the random variable? Random variable is the variable which maps the sample space to real numbers. So this is the sample space in which the outcomes are head and tail. So head will be mapped to 0 and tail will be mapped to 1. So X is my random variable. With every random variable, there will be probabilities associated, right? With every outcome. Now, the first outcome is probability associated with the first outcome is probability of X equal to 0. That means getting a head is half and probability of getting a tail is also half. Let us try to draw these probabilities. How you will draw it? Along the x-axis is your X variable, right? It is a usual representation of putting a small x onto the x-axis, right? And this is how the probability associated with the random variable is represented. It is represented like capital P. In the subscript, it will be capital X, which actually tells that capital X is a random variable, and small x is the argument which will take on the values with this random variable. So what values the random variable can take? It can take either 0 or 1. What is the probability associated with that? For 0, the probability is half. For 1, the probability is half. And this graph is known as the probability distribution of this random variable X. All right. Then, okay. Let me now talk about what are the different types of probability distribution functions. I will talk about 3 types of distribution functions. The first is the probability mass function. The second is the probability density function. The third is the cumulative distribution function. What is probability mass function? Let us look into what is PMF. When the random variable is a discrete random variable, that means the outcomes are discrete. So when the random variable is a discrete random variable, this probability distribution will be called as the probability mass function, right? When the random variable is discrete, the probability distribution associated with that random variable will be called as probability mass function. And when the random variable is continuous, then the probability distribution attached with that continuous random variable will be called as the probability density function. All right. And there will be one more distribution function, which is cumulative distribution function. Both PMF and PDF can construct a cumulative distribution function, right? So I will, in the coming slides, I will take examples also that how to get CDF and how to get PDF back from CDF. This is an important topic actually. So let us take a discrete random variable in which the experiment is throwing off a dice. The sample space is having 6 outcomes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right. What is the probability of throwing a dice once? Getting any outcome once is 1 by 6, right? What is the probability associated of when you throw the dice once? What is the probability associated with 1 as the outcome? Let me represent with this bar, and this is 1 by 6. For 2, it is 1 by 6. 3, it is 1 by 6. 4, it is 1 by 6. 5, it is 1 by 6. 6, it is 1 by 6. So what is this? This along x-axis is of course the discrete random variable having different values, which is represented as small x, and along y-axis is probability of random variable capital X with argument as small x. So this is known as the probability mass function because this is a discrete random variable. Now let us look at what is how we will get the cumulative distribution function from this probability mass function, right? So this graph, this PMF graph actually represents the height of the bar actually represents the probability associated with that outcome. But this will not be the case at the cumulative distribution function. Let us look at it. So these are the outcomes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. 0 is not there, I'm sorry. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 outcomes are there. All right. Now, what is the how to get the cumulative distribution function? I will not, the bar in the cumulative distribution function will not represent the probability of that outcome. Rather, for example, I am looking at bar number 4. So please consider it from 1, not from 0. I am sorry for this drawing. It has to be 1, 2, 3, only 6 outcomes need to be there. So in the cumulative distribution function, how this value, the sample value, the outcome of 4, what this height represents. This height, when this is the, of course, this is probability, but this is not the probability of this outcome. Rather, it is the probability of this outcome, probability of capital X less than equal to 4. That means probability of X equal to 1, probability of X equal to 2, X equal to 3, X is equal to 4. These, when added together, will give me the probability of X less than equal to 4. So the height of this graph actually represents the probability proportions before the including this outcome and before this outcome. All right. So this graph will be called as the cumulative distribution function. Now in CDF, height does not represent a probability of rolling a 4, but it represents probability of X less than equal to 4. This is very important actually. In CDF, but in CDF, the final height, right? The final height has to be equal to 1, because this will be what this final height will represent. This will represent the addition of all the previous proportions of the probability. So the final height will be equal to 1. That means, what is the probability of X less than equal to 6? It is 1. It will always be 1 when you are drawing a cumulative distribution function. All right. So I hope you have at least understood what is a probability mass function and what is a cumulative distribution function. Now let us look a little more deep into the probability mass function and the cumulative distribution function. Let us say I'm using a biased dice. In that case, the dice is such that you will never get an outcome of 3 and an outcome of 4. That means the dice is biased. Dice is biased towards 1, 2, 5, and 6. You will not get any outcome which is 3 or 4, right? So in that case, there will be no mass here. There will be no probability associated with probability. Of course, for getting a 3 or 4 will be 0, right? Because the dice is biased. And I can also say it like this, that the mass corresponding to outcome 3 is 0. That is why this is known as the probability mass function. Now let us look at the cumulative distribution correspondingly, let us look at the cumulative distribution function. Now I'm taking the same example, probability of X less than equal to 4. What is probability of X less than equal to 4? It will be equal to probability of X less than equal to 1 plus probability of X less than equal to 2, less than equal to 3, and less than equal to 4. But as I said, probability of X less than equal to 4 is the addition of these 4 probabilities. But what is the probability of X is equal to 3 and X is equal to 4 is 0. So if you look at the cumulative distribution function, the height of the bar at outcome 2 is the same as for the outcome 3 and same for the outcome 4. So it is a flat curve here between 2 and 4, because 3 and 4 are having probability proportions equal to 0, because I'm taking the example of dice as biased. Now what conclusion I draw it from here? If you look at the gradient in cumulative distribution function, this gradient is really very flat, right? So when the gradient is flat, please remember this important, very important. I have written down on my next page. When the gradient is flat, the probability, what if the gradient is flat in the cumulative distribution function, right? Correspondingly, there will be no probability proportion in the probability mass function, and same will be true for the probability density function in the case of continuous random variables. Gradient is flat, no probability proportions. That's the important one. So let us look at the point. Flatness in cumulative distribution function indicates that there is no mass in probability mass function. What is the meaning of mass? Meaning of the mass is that there are no probability, there is no probability distribution, or there is no probability proportion for that particular outcome, right? Now let us at the same time look at what are continuous distributions, and let us look at what is the continuous for the continuous random variable. Previously we have looked for the probability mass function, which is for the discrete random variable, and which is a discrete distribution. Now let us look at the continuous distribution when the random variable is a continuous random variable. And the example that I'm taking is for the female heights, right? Female height is a random variable, but it is a continuous random variable, because the height of one female can be 165.387, the other can be 165.38785. I mean, this is a continuous random variable. Height is not a discrete distribution, but a continuous distribution. Now let me explain the graph. This graph, I'm along x-axis is the average height, is the height of the females, starting from 140 centimeters. In the middle, it is 165 centimeters, and ranging up to 190 centimeters. So you will see that what is this graph? The first graph. It is known as the probability. Along x-axis is your small x, meaning by what is the random variable, what are the values of the random variable can be there. What is the random variable? Female heights is the random variable, and x-axis will have the different values of that random variable. What is along the y-axis? It is the probability density, that once of the height of 165 centimeters, there is a maximum distribution. Maximum people, there is a peak here. Maximum people will fall near to this mean. And for 140 centimeters, the probability of female height will be reducing. So this is a nice bell-shaped curve, and because this is a continuous random variable, this curve will be known as the probability density function. All right. At the peak will be the mean value, 165 is the mean, and the spread of this bell-shaped curve will be given by the standard deviation. Okay, now let us look at the cumulative distribution function. Along x-axis is again the same thing, 140 centimeter, 165 centimeter, and 190 centimeter. Along y-axis is the if you will see that if any PDF is a bell-shaped curve, you will always find that the CDF will always be an S-shaped curve. This is an important point. So let us look further. How to link PDF and CDF? The question is that how do we link this PDF and CDF? Now let us look at this 165 in the PDF. 165 is having a probability, I have just drawn in this figure, it is 0.04, right? 165 is having the maximum percentage of females having this height. This is the, right? Now, this is the probability density function. At 165, the shaded portion will give me the area under the curve. That means this will tell me what is the probability of females having heights 165. So it will be 0.04. Now, how do I interpret this thing in the cumulative distribution function? If you look at the cumulative distribution function, around 165 in the S-shaped curve, and since this is probability, 160 corresponding to 165, you will see that it is 0.5. What does it mean? 0.5. The 50% of the distribution is around 165, because in PDF, when you reach to 165, the 50% of the proportion of the probability of the female heights is completed, is elapsed. In CDF, it actually gives the same thing. Corresponding to 165, you will see that there is a cumulative probability of 0.5. What it tells me? It tells me that 50% of the population has elapsed, reaching up to 165. So mean height is 165. Since 165 is mean, proportion of the distribution, this is very important, proportion of the distribution on the left of the mean in PDF. Proportion of the distribution on the left of the mean, 165 is the mean, is 50%. So it tells us that 50% of the population has elapsed till this point, that is 165 centimeters. Now we have accumulated. How can we say it? We can say it like this also, that we have accumulated half of the distribution till 165. Maybe if you look at 158, till 158, maybe 20% of the population is elapsed, which from the PDF also you can clearly see, and from the CDF also you can clearly see, because around 165 you will get a value of 0.5. That means 50% of the distribution has elapsed. And in the same way, 165, so this is peak, the area to the left of the mean will give me the 50% of the population has elapsed. So what I mean, the point is that you have to understand the meaning of the probability density function and the cumulative distribution function. They are both providing information, and both can be used to analyze the important information content present. So this is how we can link PDF to CDF, how to derive CDF from PDF. Now there is more in the next slide. Now the question is that what we have done is we have seen how to link this PDF to CDF. That means at 165, 50% of the population has elapsed, and from direct cumulative distribution function, this is 165, it will be 0.5. Now can we go back from CDF to PDF? We have a CDF curve. Can we get back to the CDF? Can we get back to the PDF? Now let us look at that. My question is, how much of the distribution is going to be around 165? Around 165, how much is the distribution that will be around this 165? Now, can we gauge this this number from cumulative distribution function? In the discrete distribution, I have just explained you about the gradient. Now let us again look at the gradient of this S-shaped curve. We look at the gradient of S curve. Higher the gradient, in very, very important point, higher the gradient in the cumulative distribution function, higher the proportion of the probability distribution at that particular point, right? If the gradient is flat, as we have seen in our previous slides, when the gradient is flat, no density. When the gradient is high, more and more density will be around that number. More and more probability density, meaning by more and more people will be surrounding that, more and more population will be around that mean, around that value. So when the gradient is flat, no density. How can we find out the gradient gradient in the case of cumulative distribution function? We all know that it is dy by dx. It is we need to get 2 points, y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. We can find out the gradient. Now let us look here. Gradient is defined as rise in the curve divided by the run of the curve. Run means what is the x-axis values, and rise means how much the curve is rising. And this is represented by delta. Now, in the same example, if I take 2 points, 1 point corresponds to 164, which is the height of the female, comma 0.46, which is the probability value, and the other point I take is 166, comma 0.54, around this, because 165 is 0.5. So I'm taking 2 points, 164 and 166. I can find out the gradient. Gradient will be 0.54 minus 0.46 and 166 minus 164. So that is the gradient. Gradient is 0.04. And if you look in the example, starting example, 165 was having the probability distribution as 0.04, right? And from the cumulative distribution function, now we have found out through the gradient that this value is 0.04. So gradient around 165 is 0.04 in S curve, which is density value in PDF curve. Please remember that gradient in S curve is the density value in PDF curve. Gradient around 165 is 0.04 in S curve, which is density value in PDF curve around 165 centimeter. So we can go from CDF to PDF through gradient. If you want to interpret the from the cumulative distribution function, we will find out the gradient. If the gradient value is steeper, we will say that more distribution is there. So from going from CDF to PDF is through gradient, and going from PDF to CDF, area to the left on PDF. How much is the area on the left of the PDF will actually give us the cumulative distribution function. Now I can define the cumulative and the probability density functions mathematically also. I represent, normally you will find that this type of notations in the books also. PDF is normally represented by small f, argument is x, whereas the cumulative distribution function will be represented as capital F and the argument is x. This is capital Fx is the cumulative probability function and small fx is the probability density function. What is the relationship? Integral going from -infinity to x. So this is important. This is the PDF. What we are doing is that we are integrating the PDF. We are finding out the area under the curve. X is a point on the x-axis. To the left of x, we are finding out the area under the curve. Limits going from -infinity to x actually gives me the area under the curve of this fx, and this is equal to my cumulative distribution function. Integral limits going from -infinity to x of fx dx is equal to fx, which is the cumulative distribution function. And from cumulative distribution function, how you can find the probability density function? You need to differentiate it. Small fx is equal to ddx of fx, which is the gradient of the s. So you can find out the PDF. So please, intuitively, in these slides, intuitively I have tried to explain the relationship between the probability density function and the cumulative distribution function, and for the discrete random variables also. Now I have more systematically and analytically defined what is the cumulative distribution function and what is the probability density function, and how to interchangeably obtain the two functions from each other. Now let us take an example here. I have put these examples in the tutorial sheets also, tutorial sheet number 2. So I'm solving that example in the class here only. So we have a random variable capital X, which has the probability density function fx equal to 1 by 4x between 1 to 3 when x varies from 1 to 3, and it is 0 otherwise. And we have to find out capital Fx. Capital Fx is very obvious in our classes. Capital Fx will represent the cumulative distribution function, whereas a small fx will represent the probability density function. So how to find, and we know that in the probability density function, how to go to cumulative distribution function, you need to take the area under the curve, but area under the curve on the left of the small x value, right? And how to go from the CDF to PDF? Just look at the gradient in CDF. If the gradient value is more density will be there. If the gradient value is flat, zero density. If the gradient value is smaller, less probability density. So this is our probability density function given. So we need to find out the area to the left of the, and if you see here, look at the function. The probability density, let us try to draw the probability density function. We have here x is the variable which will go from -infinity to infinity, but it is throughout 0. So from -infinity to 1, this density function is 0. Then from 1 to 3, it is 1 by 4x. So when x is equal to 4, it is 1 by 4. So from this point to this point, it will be a straight line going up to 3 by 4. When x is equal to 1, it is 1 by 4. When x is equal to 3, it is 3 by 4. So along on the y-axis, this line will go from 1 by 4 to 3 by 4. And beyond 3 also, this probability density function is 0. Clear? Now we have to find out the cumulative distribution function from this probability density function. How do we find out? What is the lower limit? The lower limit is 1. So we will integrate this function to find out the cumulative distribution function, but we will take the limits. We will take, because below 1 it is all 0, beyond 3 it is all 0. We have limits from 1 to 3 in which there is a probability density function. We will take the lower limit, and we will take the lower limit and going up to x, right? So that will define all the points where the probability, where the distribution will be there, where the cumulative distribution will be there. So we will take the lower limit, going to upper limit will be x. And what is the function? The function is 1 by 4x, 1 by 4x dx. So let us integrate this. The value comes out to be, so this is x dx, x square by 2, and you put the limits, you will find out that this comes out to be fx, which is my capital Fx. Fx is x square minus 1 by 8. Now, as I have told you, we need to check whether the cumulative distribution function that we have obtained is correct or not. How to check it? What is the final value of the x variable? It is 3. So as I told you, for the final value of the x, small x, the area under the curve has to be 1. That means the probability, because the cumulative distribution function is giving you the addition of the probabilities. So when you reach at the final point, it should give you 1 area under the curve. It should give the final area under the curve, which is 1. So at x is equal to 3, this formula should give me 1. So let us check it. Put x is equal to 3 here, which is 9 minus 1 divided by 8. 8 by 8 is 1. So our cumulative distribution function, what we have found out is correct. How you can represent the cumulative distribution function? It is 0 for x less than 1. It is x square minus 1 by 8 from 1 to 3, and it is 1 because the probability will stay there only throughout beyond in the cumulative distribution function. It is 0 in the probability density function, right? So it will stay at 1. So this is how you can find out the cumulative distribution function from the probability density function. Let me take one more example. That example is a little tricky. So let us see this example. Here in the previous example, there was only one function involved, but here I am taking two functions, right? So two functions are there in the probability density function, and we need to specify fully the cumulative distribution function. It is capital Fx. It's not small fx, but it is capital F. Okay. Let us draw the probability density function. What does this function tell me? From 0 to 1, this is 1 by 3. Going from 0 to 1, this is a flat line. The value of the flat line is 1 by 3. The intercept for this line is 1 by 3. Correct? So going from 0 to 1, it is 1 by 3. And from 1 to 2, it is a quadratic equation. So it's a kind of a parabola. So from 1 to 2, it will be a kind of polynomial. It's a parabola. It's a quadratic equation. All right. And other from beyond 2, it is 0. So it is 0. So this is my probability density function. Right. How to find out the cumulative distribution function from this probability density function when more than one functions are given. So let us look at the first function. First function tells me from 0 to 1, the function value is 1 by 3. So this A is the area under the curve for this first function. What is this area? Right, we need to integrate each function separately. So what is the lower limit? The lower limit is 0 for the first function. Lower limit is 0, and I will integrate it from 0 to x. The function is 1 by 3, so 1 by 3 dx, the value comes out to be x by 3. Now this is the cumulative distribution function for part A of this question. Now let us look at part B. Now this is a little bit tricky. Please understand at this point that how to handle the second function. See, cumulative distribution function give you what? In the second function, what is the lower limit? The lower limit is 1. All right. The question is that, and from 1 to 2, it is 2 by 7 x squared. Below 1, from 0 to 1, the value is not 0. That means when you are calculating the cumulative distribution function for the limits from 1 to 2, you need to add the values which you have found for the first function. Then only it will give you all the probability distribution on the left of 2, on the left of 1, right? Then only it will give you that probability distribution function. Clear? So how to find out this? What is the second function? 2 by 7 x squared. Its lower limit is 1. So I will do the integration from 1 to x, 2 by 7 x squared dx. But I will have to add the area for the first function also at the highest limit. Its highest limit is 1. My cumulative distribution function came out to be x by 3. Now for x is equal to 1, what is the area under the curve? It is 1 by 3. So therefore, for the second function, I will of course calculate from 1 to x, but I will have to add here 1 by 3 also. Put x is equal to 1, right? But this is the for point A, for part A, right? Put x is equal to 1 in x by 3 cumulative distribution function. So when you will add this integral is for part B, this integral is for part A, and then it will give you the final cumulative distribution function for this whole problem. So this comes out to be, and for part C it is 0. For part C it is 0. So only you have to solve this equation only. This equation comes out to be 2x cubed plus 5 divided by 21. The function should tell us entire probability as long as it is between 1 and 2, any probability. And this function of 2x cubed plus 5 should tell me the probability between 1 and 2, because between 0 and 1, it will be x by 3. The cumulative distribution function will be x by 3. But between 1 and 2, this will be my function. So this is a little bit tricky. So when you will solve, when you will get the questions in the exam also, so please remember that you will have to, for finding out the cumulative distribution function, for this second case, you will have to add the first one also, right? This function should tell us the entire probability as long as it is between 1 and 2, right? So substitute for value 2, because you have found out this cumulative distribution function, and 0.2 is the last point, otherwise it is all 0. So that means the cumulative distribution function should give me 1 here. So let us check that. 2x cube plus 5 divided by 10, when x is equal to 2. So 8 2s are 16 plus 5, 21 by 21, it is 1. So that means this is my cumulative distribution function. From 0 to 1, it is x by 3. From 1 to 2, it is 2x cube plus 5 divided by 21. And from x greater than 2, it is 1. Right? So this is how the cumulative distribution functions can be obtained from the probability density functions in the case of continuous random variables, and in the case of discrete random variables, we can have the probability mass function and CDF related to each other. Right? And we have also seen that the importance of the PDF and the CDF. If in the case of PDF, if you want to go, if you want to understand the distributions, then you will have to look at the area on the left side of the point till where you want to see the distribution. And in the case of if you have a CDF curve, you need to look for the gradient. More the gradient, more density proportion of probability will be there. Less the flat the curve in the cumulative distribution function, the density is 0. All right. So this is my this is related to the random variables and the probability distributions associated with that. One is the probability mass function, probability density function, and cumulative distribution function. All right. So next is the random processes. I will stop sharing this screen and I will try to share the for the left of the time. I just want to take 5 minutes more to explain the definitions of probability and the intuitive approach for the law of large numbers. And tomorrow we will see the more analytical and more detailed or mathematical explanation of the Bernoulli's theorem, or we call this as the law of large numbers also, right? But I will start random processes I will discuss afterwards. But let me stop sharing the screen and let me share the okay, let us look at the various definitions of probability, right? Now, you all know what is probability, but let me just very, systematically and a little explanatory way of defining the probability. Probability approaches to probability can be of 4 types. One is the classical approach, which is also called the a priori way of, and it was defined by Laplace. The second approach can be the relative frequency theory, and which is an empirical theory, and this was given by a British statistician. I don't have the name here, and this approach is called as the a posteriori approach. The third approach is the subjective approach. It was given by Frank Ramsey, and the final approach is the axiomatic or the modern approach, and it was given by A.L. Kolmogorov. Now let us look at the first approach, which is the classical approach. Now, outcomes of an experiment are equally likely. Equally likely means each outcome has the same likelihood, right? Or mutually exclusive. These two are different words. Equally likely means each outcome has a same chance of becoming true. That is equally likely. Likelihood of happening of an outcome is the same for all the outcomes. What is mutually exclusive? If one event occurs, if one and only one outcome can happen at one time only. One and only one can happen at one time. That is mutually exclusive. That means one outcome can be there at one time. In the case of tossing of a coin, you cannot get both the outcomes. One outcome can be there. So that is mutually exclusive, and the other word is equally likely. Now we know that the probability of happening of an event is given by number of outcomes favorable to event A divided by the total number of possible outcomes. For example, tossing a coin, and whether you get head, the probability is half. Whether you get tail, the probability is half. How many possible outcomes are there? 2 possible outcomes are there. Even before doing the experiment, please understand, even before doing the experiment, even before tossing the coin, you have found out the probabilities of each event, of each outcome for this event, right? So that is why this is known as a priori way of probability. Even before performing the experiment, you have found out the probabilities. These are also known as the theoretical probabilities. Now, what is the next? Is the relative frequency theory. Now, what do I mean by the relative frequency theory? Now, let me take the same example of tossing of a coin. So I know that the theoretical probability is half and half for head and tail, but let us say I do 100 trials. 100 times I throw the coin, but it is not necessary that 50 times you will get head, 50 times you will get tail. Though the theoretical probability associated with getting a head or a tail is 50%, but when you actually perform the experiment, so it is not always true that you 50 times you will get head or 50 times you will get tail. It may happen 45 times you will get head and 55 times you will get tail. So what are the actual outcomes divided by the total number of trials? That approach is known as the relative frequency approach. The method uses the relative frequencies of the past occurrences as possibilities. In this approach, you have performed the experiment. When you have performed the experiment, then you are trying to calculate the probability. And that is why this is known as empirical way of finding out the probability. And this is also known as a posterior approach of defining probability. The earlier was a priori probability. Even before performing the experiment, you have find out the probability. Now there is a third way, which is subjective approach. So what I say for the relative frequency is that this method uses the relative frequencies of the past occurrences. Now, what is more subjective? When you have the past occurrences available with you, what you can do, you can use your own brain. Okay, this is the probability. I can vary this. I mean, you add a little bit subjectivity into your decision making. So that is known as the subjective approach of defining the probability, rather than only looking at the relative frequencies, right? So you can add little more subjectivity into that, and you can change it with, change your probabilities as your subjectivity levels, as your information. And what is the final way of that? It is axiomatic or modern approach. Now, what is this? I will explain this graph. 1 minute. Let me explain the axiomatic approach first. 3 axioms of probability are there, right? The probability of an event varies between 0 and 1. The probability of the complete sample space is 1. What is the meaning of here? If there is a complete sample space, so definitely one of the outcome will be there. So probability of the complete sample spaces will be equal to 1. And the third axiom is probability of A or B is given by probability of A plus probability of B, when A and B are mutually exclusive. So these are based on these 3 axioms, if you define your probability examples or probability problems, that will be known as the axiomatic approach of defining the probability, right? Now let us look here. As I was trying to explain for the tossing of a coin, so what happens is that this is my 0.5 probability, relative frequency. This is the x-axis, this point is 0.5. Let's take the example of tossing of a coin. So theoretical, this line is the theoretical line, that 50% of the time you will get head, 50% of the time you will get tails. But when you perform the experiment 100 times, it may happen that number of heads are more or number of tails are more. And for 200 experiments, 300, 400 trials. Now, what this curve is actually trying to say, as you increase, as the number of trials go on increasing, as n approaches towards infinity, your probability will try to settle down your theoretical probability of 0.5. This is also known as law of large numbers. So let me come to the law of large numbers. An intuitive approach, more mathematical approach we will look at tomorrow, right? So I think the time is over. Anyway, what we will do is, I will start from this point only tomorrow also, law of large numbers. If any doubts are there or any questions are there, you can ask. Otherwise, I will continue with the same topic tomorrow in my class also. Law of large numbers, and we will try to prove the Bernoulli's theorem. We will see what are Bernoulli's trials and what is binomial distribution and so on. Okay, thank you so much for joining the class.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.